Hi everyone, this is Renee and let's talk about overseas student transfers and concurrent enrollments. I attended this interactive panel discussion by IEAL last week, where the panel discussed the opportunities and the challenges facing international education sector for 2023. And out of the whole conversation, the major point of discussion was around student transfers. Not just the process, but how some students are able to transfer to a new provider without being released, leading to lots of concurrent enrollments. Under the ESOS Act, Standard 7 of National Code, for an overseas student to transfer to a different provider, before completing 6 months of their principal course, they must either obtain a release from their current provider, or they must meet those conditions listed in the National Code, where a student does not need a release or it approximates the requirement for release. And providers, they need to assess students' request for release based upon these conditions and a range of other circumstances as listed as detailed in the National Code. Now, the challenge is when the provider determines that a student's request to release doesn't have the grounds where they can grant them release and they refuse the student to be released, student is still able to enroll with a different provider, either as a concurrent enrollment or who knows, using one of those loopholes in the whole system. But the student's visa, most of the time, it's still associated with the current provider and the risk rating stays with the current provider as well. So what can providers do to reduce these instances of student transfers? At operational level, every provider operates differently, so there could be lots of different ways how it's managed. But from compliance perspective, there are two most important things that you need to be aware of, and you need to educate your students and your education agents as well, because they play a very important role in recruiting the students. The first one is information on student visa conditions and the consequences of breach of those visa conditions. Number two, your overseas student transfer policy. All right, now let's go into the details. So being a provider, your staff need to be aware of the student visa conditions, and you need to encourage your student as well so they are familiar with the visa conditions associated with their individual student visas. So out of all visa conditions in context of student transfers, 3 are the important ones that you need to be aware of. The first condition is 8202. So based on this condition, students are required to maintain the attendance requirements, their course progress requirements. They need to maintain their enrollment at the same or a higher AQF level, but they are also required to maintain their studies in a full-time course. So in this context where the students transfer, if a student transfers to another provider before even commencing the course with you, they are in breach of this visa condition. And based upon the guide published by ESQA around obligations of CRICOS providers for reporting international students, you need to report a student on non-commencement. Even if the student has enrollment with another provider, it still helps the department to indicate that the primary purpose for the student might not be for study, hence displaying their non-genuineness. So Department of Home Affairs, when they get this information after you report it, it may lead to cancellation of the student visa. The second condition is 8518, and according to this condition, students, they need to make sure that they continue to meet the conditions of their visa before they make any changes to their education situation. Otherwise, they are at risk of getting their visa cancelled. And according to the Standard 7 of National Code, if the student transfers without being released by their original provider, they are in breach of this visa condition, and if the original provider reports them, their visa may get cancelled. Third condition that you need to be aware of is 8533. So just apart from informing providers of the change of address, students are also required to inform their education provider if they have changed their education provider within 7 days of receiving either a COE or any other evidence that the other provider, they have enrolled them. So this happens when most of the time students, they just ghost the provider and providers don't know where the student is, but later down the line, they identify that student has been studying with a different provider altogether. So if you report students based upon them breaching this visa condition, they are again at the risk of their visa getting cancelled. So it's very important that your team is aware of all these visa conditions and your students are aware of this. And you need to document this information, embed it in your policies and processes, make it available to your students, to your education agents. And second thing that you need to be looking at is your overseas student transfer policy. Now, you need to ensure that your policy meets all the requirements of Standard 7 of the National Code. It outlines all the circumstances under which the release will either be granted or refused and the associated steps. And make this policy available to the students at an early stage, not just guiding them after the student has requested for release. So make it part of your pre-enrollment process. Explain it to them when you have your initial discussions with the student. Explain it to your education agents so that they are able to pass it on to the students. Embed it in your cancellation policy, your fees and refund policy. Re-emphasize about the visa conditions and this policy at the orientation. So if you think about it, it's not so much additional work that you and your team are already doing in recruiting the students, in providing them these services, in retaining them. Now, if you are a provider at the other end, that is, the student is coming to you from their original provider to enroll them in a concurrent course, you need to approach very cautiously here. You need to be assessing students' application very carefully, and you just cannot accept the student. You need to identify the reasons that why does the student want to do concurrent studies? How is it helpful to them? Is it related to their principal course? Is it just a few units, few subjects they want to do, or is it the full-time enrollment? Will they be able to participate in your course while studying full-time with their principal course? So you need to make your decision based on your better judgment here. You need to train your student recruitment and your admissions team members on assessing these criterias. Yes, the overseas students, they are permitted to undertake additional studies at the same time as they are studying their principal course, but you, being the credit course provider, you are responsible to ensure compliance of all aspects here with the ESOS Act. So even if you unknowingly enroll a student who may be breaching one of these visa conditions, you are in a conflict of Standard 7. So it's very important that you ensure your application assessment processes, make them efficient so that they vet through all these situations. Now, I know all these steps, they won't reduce the number of student transfers overnight, but by educating your students, by educating your team, your education agents, we can help reduce these occurrences over the time. All education providers are different. They operate differently. They've got different systems. If you need any help in implementing these into your policies, into your process, you need to customize these into your business operations, feel free to get in touch and let's discuss. Okay, that's it for today. It's a long video, a lot of information. Take it, eat it, digest it, enjoy it. And of course, Lego time. This is the minimalistic version of Ferrari Formula 1 car that my son has made. It's because this weekend Formula 1 season for 2023 is starting, and he's a big supporter of Ferrari team and he wanted me to share it with you. Go Tifosi!